taking a music festival porta potty on a cross-country tour. And if you are ever stopped by PSO or equivalent, they are legally allowed to see your ID. They have the right to ask. You are obliged to provide, and they do have the right to arrest you, as I will later find out. I'll squat and finish up some of his banana. And that's when I feel a warm sensation sort of going down the back of my arm, and I'm trying to think, has this monkey shit on me? Because that changes the whole dynamic of the relationship. Alright, so this is a bad day at work for them. He looks down at me and goes, "We don't want your f***ing change!" They kept it anyway, but they wanted me to know that it was an inconvenience to have to carry. I haven't figured out what would be a suitable prize to play for. Like what the winner would actually achieve. Like a roll of toilet paper? I don't know. I don't know what to go down for. I feel like you just want to ski your way back over here and avoid your 2 weeks quarantine. Yeah.
5 minutes of sunlight.
Yeah, you get 5 minutes of outside time without scrutiny from the police. That's the prize. But I guess before we start up, I want to start with one question. I put this question to the occupants of this house a few days ago, and I was thoroughly downvoted. So I just want to know what the opinion is. Can there be such a thing as too warm?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
You mean body temperature? Body temperature?
Well, see, my running theory is that too warm is hot. Warm is medium. So warm is medium.
You can be too warm. It turns into hot.
No, so but can you be too medium? Is there extra medium? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like once you leave warm, you're hot. That's my running.
Warm.
No, it's hot.
Yeah, which is too warm.
I think if you look at it like doona covers, so it'd be like, it's a cold night, you get into bed, and then the level heat, and then at what point do you stick your foot out?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
that's too warm.
But I feel like that's me being hot.
I am a woman, and I've also had a child, and I am in my mid-40s. So yeah, you can be too warm, and sometimes you just need to open the window and that cold air come in. And I refuse to call it.
She's saying that she's sitting in a room with the heater on and the door closed because I told her to shut the door. So yes, it's very pertinent.
Is it getting too warm in here?
This has just become a marital debate. I've just become a marriage therapist at this point now. Let's talk about this warm situation.
I will tell you something. I ate a sliver of a boiled egg yesterday.
Yeah.
That was too. It was actually not just too warm. It was actually too hot, and it burnt my insides. It was the tiniest bit, and everything I drink now or eat that is warm, it hurts because I think I burnt myself, my internal
all the way down, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It hits a certain point.
The esophagus is burnt. So it's just burnt meals.
Which is why I am drinking wine and not a cup of tea. Because
long-winded explanation for why she's not.
Oh, look, it's whatever excuse you can take when it comes to that, I think.
Oh, I've got many excuses.
Well, once I started seeing the news articles about hoarding of alcohol, then I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's the sort of natural endpoint of being locked away. Just everyone. Okay, I heard a voice.
Oh, I was going to say there's a great gif of the Japanese woman going to a Zoom meeting. So she gets a normal cup, a mug, fills it with wine, then cuts the end of a tea bag off. It just takes the string and just tapes it to the inside of her mug. So she's just sipping wine on a Zoom meeting. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
Hey, Ben, you can buy booze at supermarkets, can't you? Because lots of the NZ shops, you shut, but you could still get alcohol.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a bottle in New Zealand. You just have your vodka next to your bread.
Yeah, I found that to be quite interesting when I was over there because we walked through the New World somewhere in Auckland, and we're just like, "Oh, hello, hello, friend, what are you doing here?" This
I love it.
Why do they
World.
separate? Why are we separating those two things out in Australia? Come on, we're both essential.
Because we can't be trusted. Like just as a so I don't know if you know this, Ben, but historically Australia's first currency was rum. That was how
it doesn't surprise me.
No, not at all. They paid a group of convicts called the Night Watch, and that was their currency. It was rum. That's how they got them to sort of. They were essentially Australia's first police force, which says a lot about Australian policing, really.
But the size of their wallets were impossible.
Yes, just can't fit more than one in there. The pay rises were impossible.
That's why women started carrying handbags to help their husbands carry their wallets.
It's like just to show off their affluence. It's like, look how rich we are.
Oh, it's a 2-bottle bag here.
Now I'm getting a slight echo on some of this. You're getting that, Matt.
Yeah,
I'm getting that as well.
I'm getting a mild delay, but not an echo.
I can hear my own voice 3 seconds later, which is making me not want to speak.
I'm not sure if that's something that will resolve itself, or if it's even anything that I can do anything about. But I don't know. We'll push through and we'll give it a go. And I'll just try not to speak too quickly, so that everyone gets a chance to sort of hear. All right, so I've got some questions. I did a little digging to try and find something that wasn't coronavirus related, because it's hard to find news that's not directly coronavirus related. So I have 2 stories that are not, and the rest sort of tie in a little bit. But it's sort of like the silly side of some of this stuff. So I guess to begin with, we may as well get into it, So the European Space Agency, essentially they're European NASA, they recently conducted an experiment where they mixed materials, including moon rocks, with a common compound found on Earth to test if we could one day use it to build a lunar base. Does anyone have any idea what that compound might be? Something you'll find in your house, something very common.
Gumption.
Take a stab if you Gumption. Grit and determination.
Yeah.
Maybe rice flour or something that everyone has a lot of but doesn't use.
I like that. That's a good answer. It's not right, but I like it. It's a.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea what baking powder does, but it always surprises me. So maybe that.
So you want to make a gingerbread house on the moon? Is that what you're going for? I don't know how you're going to bake it. There's no oxygen for the fire.
Good point.
I feel like that might be your first go-to problem.
Something around the house.
Oh, look! If you're living, no. If you're living poorly, it's around the house. If you keep a clean house, it definitely shouldn't be around the house. It's called urea. You know what urea is? It is.
Yeah, it's like
the main
urine.
component found in mammalian urine.
Oh,
rat.
I wouldn't say urine is a compound found around the house.
Like I said, if you don't keep a clean house, it's maybe if you've got
if you don't keep a clean anything, then urine is found.
Darling, where's that jar of rat's piss?
It's underneath the jar of human piss, love.
Keep it on the top shelf.
Why?
Well, I think the idea is it's something that you don't have to store to take with you, and something that you'll ideally have an infinite supply of. It's something that you can continuously refresh, because they got the little bags that they sort of put it in, and they would eject it into space anyway. And this way, it's recycling.
See, the thing is, Matt, is that my mum taught me to go before I leave the house. So I would have.
let alone leave the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm more worried about the final thing. Like, you imagine being the tour guide, like trying to sell off these units on the moon or something. Going, come in. It's beautiful. It's shiny. It's new. Ignore the smell. You just ignore the smell. You'd be fine. Just come through. Come through.
Is the urine the cement? Is the urine playing the role of cement?
It's essentially being mixed to form. Yeah, I guess the cement, like the compound that would stick the lunar rock together. Like it's mixed with some other stuff. They said it acts as a plasticizer, which allows you to shape materials. So essentially, all that urinal practice we've been having on urinal cakes, they're just training. I reckon I could be an astronaut engineer and just be like at the urinal, be like, "This is your house, and we'll shape this little brick."
I was going to say, where's the factory? Where are they storing? How are they extracting this?
Well, I feel like the sad inevitability of this is going to be because Jeff Bezos wants to go to space, and Amazon employees already collect their urine in jars because they're not given breaks. So that's inevitably where you're going to build your next factory. Like it's just
I'm a bull.
Capitalism.
He's the worst man in the world.
At this point. He is. He's absolutely terrible, and he owns Whole Foods.
He's a Bond villain.
Yeah. He is.
Yeah.
I think he's the reality of a Bond villain just come to. He's even got the bald head, and he's like started working out more. There's this amazing photo of him in cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, leaning up against one of his rockets, and it's the worst thing you've ever seen.
No. His dad could beat up all of our dads.
It's like he's been made from a machine that if you just typed in what the person did, it would make what they look like.
They generated a photo based on. It's like a reverse Google image. The worst person in the world. Or the reverse dictionary. I don't know if you've seen the reverse dictionary. You type in what the word means, and it tells you what the word is. So essentially, it'd be that for image matching.
That's brilliant. Oh man, I need that all the time.
Yeah, right. It's the best thing.
Because I've got what's that thing that you get when there's a fail.
Like, right.
That was going to be a bit, and I ripped cord out of there straight away.
Abort. All right, this is my only other non-coronavirus story. So there's a group called Reporters Without Borders. They're a French non-profit organization, which I call Reporters Without Imagination, because guys, come up with a better name. Reporters, they're all about copyright infringement and about like getting past that. So they were established in '95, and they've been working to deliver uncensored news to the public, but they're doing it via a popular video game. Does anyone want to take a stab at which video game they're using? Well, Ben's gone. Ben's about to lose.
I know. I know what it is.
No.
You know what it is? Or Fortnite?
I know what it is. It's Minecraft.
Yeah, it is Minecraft. That's right. Yeah.
They're building. They've built a massive fort, massive library, an open access library for everyone from who's got sort of censorship implanted. They can go in there and they can read articles and
and they can read articles
the
from
virtual
any
world
website.
of Minecraft. But they also have to kill zombies at the same time.
To protect the library from zombies. It's actually the ultimate dream of
you're redacted. You can have your unredacted newspaper, but you have to kill a zombie to get it.
That's
I feel like the worst part of that
still got to earn your unredacted newspaper.
I feel like the worst part of that is the fact that it's completely undermining the Doctors Without Borders. That they are somehow associated because they've used the same catchy jingle.
No, but if you play Pac-Man and look closely, they're releasing messages. They're little tiny pills that you can take.
Whichever
and so they're delivering medicine. Yeah. Got to...
I love a Pac-Man reference.
Yeah. I don't know games.
Yeah. That's your go-to video game, Pac-Man.
And I'm so annoyed that I didn't say Pac Lady.
This is Pac-Man.
Yeah.
If only she was called Pac Lady, but they just presumed that she was married to Pac-Man, and they were just like Mrs. Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't even have her own identity.
She
Like
pack.
just being introduced
See,
at a
that's
fancy
cool.
party. She Pac.
Tupac.
It's like Tupac's mothers.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That was great. And you've covered my next question because I was going to ask what they did inside Minecraft, which is they built an enormous library. If you look up images, just something for you to do a little bit later if you want, there is an image of the outside of the library. So they've built this like resistance fist, but it's holding a pen, and that's their symbol outside their library. Because you can tell these guys have got, I don't know if they've like hired teenagers to do all their design work, like just put them to
massive.
work and be like, oh, yeah, it's so big, which is strange because it's a digital space. So you would think it'd be like a TARDIS, bigger on the inside.
But you just know that some noob is going to go in there and put a ring of dynamite around it and blow the whole thing up just for shits and giggles,
I thought you'd open the door to try and find out some news, and you'd see two 14-year-olds just teabagging each other.
Yeah.
With oddly square balls, just being like,
And yet I'm so annoyed that the symbol has it. For me, that looks like an office works. If you've got like a fist with a pen, I just came here for a pen. I wanted to jot some notes down.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about what game to move this into when Minecraft was shut down.
Yeah, Sheepack. Let me.
All right, let's move into slightly more Earth-based and non-virtual world news. So there was a press conference recently that I'm sure you all heard about, where a reporter asked about the Netflix documentary Tiger King. What did he ask Donald Trump?
Are you related? Are you related to anyone on the show?
Yeah. Do we drink the bleach that he bleached his hair with? Is that what we do?
Is it something to do with as a running mate? Like having Joe Exotic come back.
Well, he did run once. That would be an almost logical question. But this is such a non sequitur question. He asked if the president would consider pardoning Joe Exotic.
Oh dear!
Like went in there. This was a coronavirus briefing, so they were talking about the disease. And this guy sidetracked everyone with being like, "Hey, have you seen this Netflix documentary? Like, what do you think?"
But I guess
they just have to talk to someone.
Given the way, he's lonely. Given the way that Trump's press conferences have gone, he was probably going to get a more legible answer, an intelligent answer based on Joe Exotic than he would actually Corona information.
I mean, that's his wheelhouse, though, isn't it? That's his people, really.
Yeah, the Carnival show.
That's that. Yeah.
And then meanwhile, you've got these Reporters Without Borders who have to use Minecraft, and there's a reporter in the room with the president. And
just furiously jotting things down with a square pen. You're like, oh, come
I'm so sad that journalist, like you said, is so lonely. He's got no one else to talk to except to go, hey, anyone seen that doco?
The guy from Making a Murderer, though, must be pissed off because he's just like, what? How much more white trash do you have to be to get a pardon? Like, do I have to do that? Yeah.
There's not enough tigers in Making a Murderer.
Oh. Just tires.
Yeah. Does anyone want to take a stab at what Trump's answer was?
Absolutely. He started chanting, "Free him up."
He actually goes
Joe Exotic is a good friend of mine. I like him a lot. He's done a lot for this country. Carol Baskin murdered her husband. Is that what he said?
Yeah, well, I'm surprised he didn't try a lock her up chant about Carol Baskins, given the way the public has turned on her. But he'd never seen the documentary, but you watch the footage of him, he brightens up immediately because it's not someone talking to him and berating him about a bad job that he's doing. He's like, "Oh, what do you think? What do you think? Like, should I let him out?" Just quizzing all the journalists, going around the room, and he said he'd look into it.
Oh my God.
I love it anytime that Donald Trump gets a question
you're pretty
about
close
his
there,
own
Amanda.
personality. He just transforms into a human being just for a split second.
Yeah, like a terrible dad, but still a human being. You're like, oh, yeah,
Blink
bad
and
dads
you'll
are
miss
still
it.
people.
Blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah. Oh dear. All right. So, given that the sports are basically extinct now, sports bet is really struggling to come up with a reason to still exist, and they've taking on. Like they sort of have done weird bets in the past, but I've checked their website a couple of times, and I've seen some interesting bets on there. Does anyone want to take a stab at what they think sports bet is taking money on?
It's like next celebrity death, isn't there? Like next celebrity to die of corona. Is that a thing?
Or that would be. I reckon that would be something that like your Doug Stanhope would do. He does run he does run.
But not
a death
official
pool.
sports bet. I get it now.
No. But sports bet, no, they've gotten into some weird territory. Anyone else want to take a stab?
Well, I reckon if it's not the official races, it'll be a form of. Like, I know that instead of the Kentucky Derby this year, they're doing turtles.
Oh, that's brilliant! I didn't see that at all.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
So they're racing turtles instead. Apparently, it's the slowest race of the century. So maybe it's just like what flea can jump the highest, or
the P.T. Barnum sports.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you saying the turtles are on the same track as the horses were on?
Yeah,
They didn't.
it takes a risk.
They didn't make the track shorter.
They're even doing the same amount of laps.
And it's a steeplechase.
Yeah. and they still need jockeys.
A couple of things that they've gone for. The colour of Scott Morrison's tie when he does his press conferences.
Wow.
But couldn't he bet on that?
You would think that he would, being the sort of dodgy guy that he is, you would think that he'd have someone placing bets so that he could ring. That way, that chaos is going to pay for JobKeeper. You know what I mean? Like, he's got to get the money from somewhere.
Yeah.
I think the biggest odds on that were him not wearing a tie, which is never going to happen, and just above that was bow tie.
Well, that only happens if he goes to a sporting event. So therefore, it's
never going to happen.
Although
they've
just given the green light for the NZ rugby team to come over or whatever. So
have they?
Yeah, I saw that.
That was announced today, I think. Yeah.
Are they going to put them on an island like they planned? Like there was talks of sequestering rugby players on an island and just keeping them.
I smell a reality
Which,
TV show.
Yeah, right. I mean, in general, that's probably not a bad idea. Like they're going to hurt less people that way. But
this week on Rugby Island.
That sounds like the most exciting show, but it would be the most boring show in the world because no one has a personality.
Well, nothing past anger anyway. They're also putting bets on
this week on Rugby Island.
Yeah, who's still alive?
We just gave them a case of rum, some bananas.
They formed their own police.
Yeah.
They've put bets on which items they think will be the next things to have limits placed on them. So, which is something
again,
that people
Scott
could
Morrison.
influence.
Scott Morrison could be making a lot of money about both these bets.
Yeah.
And the cast, who will be cast as Joe Exotic in the Tiger King movie? They've They've got a few names. So I wrote down some of the names that they've got. So we got Russell Crowe, Adam Sandler,
Too old.
Ryan Gosling, Hugh Jackman, DiCaprio.
Chris Hemsworth, surely. He could grow a mullet.
It's already been made. It was Joe Dirt. It was,
David Spade.
David Spade.
You say that, and that's who they've got the best odds on, David Spade.
Yeah. But I heard him say there was no way he was going to do it.
It was him, then Billy Bob Thornton. They're the two front runners. All the way, Russell Crowe's at $51, 51 return if you put down $1 if they cast him. It's almost worth putting $1 down just to be see how we go.
I don't think Russell's interested in doing that whole weight on, take the weight off for roles anymore. So he'd just be like, I'm not doing that.
And I'm not sure that he'd be into sort of like punching down that far and like playing this. Like, I know he's not above throwing the odd phone.
Play a neo-Nazi skinhead, but you say one down from that is Joe Exotic. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I've made my stance, and I'll stand by it. At least these neo-Nazis aren't hurting animals.
I have a Russell Crowe video that I watch anytime I'm feeling sad, which is, it's the cast of Les Mis backstage at the Oscars rehearsing to do their big medley, and everyone's going for it, and then it pans to Russell Crowe, and someone is literally in his face like going, these are the words, and these are the notes you have to hit.
Oh no,
that's fantastic!
I'm gonna watch that the moment we're off air. I'm watching that.
Google Russell Crowe Oscars.
They've got Nobel Peace Prize. They've got Nobel Peace Prize listed. Who's going to win? Some of their so they've got Xi Jinping as having better odds than Michelle Obama, and I don't think Michelle Obama would ever get it. But I think she'd have better odds than Xi Jinping. You know what I mean? Like, the dude's not exactly out there doing great work for the people.
Yeah, just by its rationale of, I don't know, Michelle's not going to get it, but she's, I mean, she gets kids to do aerobics, so,
exercise,
she's one up. And she's married Obama, so.
And he's already won one. For whatever reason, so
Yeah.
All right. The last weird one that I found on there was the Merriam-Webster's Word of the Year. They've got odds on Merriam-Webster's Word of the Year, which I think is an interesting bet for them to take.
Sorry, just Xi Jinping just always reminds me of a sibling of Pingu. I just don't know why. It's just one of those.
Xi Jinpingu.
Yeah, Xi Jinping.
He's his much angrier uncle. He went to the north, he went to the South Pole and started his own penguin colony. Didn't last very long because of all the polar bears, but still.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you there, Matt.
No, not at all. We're on the topic of weird sports races. So obviously, with all the events being cancelled, with lots of sports, like major sports organizations trying to figure out a way to have some sort of event. The NBA came up with two very interesting alternatives. Does anyone know what the NBA came up with?
Wii basketball.
Yes. It's not like beer pong or like.
I'd love to see professional NBA players do beer pong. That would actually be a good alternative for tennis. Like if you got Serena Williams and who beat her this year? Naomi. What's her name? Naomi. Oh, I feel really bad not knowing this.
Yeah, I feel bad because sports are not my thing.
Sports are not really my thing either, but it was such a big story. But if you get them on the opposite end of a ping pong table, just like shooting, that'd be great. I'd love to see that.
Would they make the same noises? Would they be smaller?
I would hope so. Yeah, just minuscule versions of the noise. Everyone want to take
did
two possible answers.
Did they get mascots to play instead of the players?
No, that would. I'm surprised if Conan was still running the way Conan used to run. I feel like he would have had some sort of mascot-based sketch because he used to do the dunk off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is it just spinning the ball on your finger?
Like a plate spinning.
Yeah.
That should be an Olympic event. I'd love to see Olympic level plate spinning. Just how long can we keep this going? Who do you think would win? Not to derail my own question too much. Which country do you think would take it?
Plate spinning.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I can only hear the circus music theme, so I'm feeling like Argentina or Spain or something like that.
Are any of the Harlem Globetrotters still alive? Because I reckon they'd have been with the show.
Oh, they fill up the team with new people all the time, and I'm not sure.
Right.
So there was an alternative to the Harlem Globetrotters a few years back that was like more like extreme version essentially of that, where they did tricks rather than do exhibition games. So I don't know if they supplanted the Globetrotters. I'm pretty sure the Globetrotters still exist. I should look that up. That's an interesting question. But yeah, they get fresh faces in all the time.
How many countries did they actually go to? That's what I'm interested in. They call themselves... Yeah.
Well, how many globes?
They seem to travel a lot.
They've got that cartoon where they were in space. So
yeah.
That's not
when I was 12, I won a 3-point shootout to be coached by the Harlem Globetrotters when they were in Australia.
That's amazing.
And I won. And me and about 7 other 12-year-olds turned up to the New South Wales State Sports Centre to be coached by them. And the person who had arranged it didn't actually arrange it with the Harlem Globetrotters, and so they didn't turn up.
So you got coached by Gaza.
It's one of the saddest stories I have. I wrote a letter of disappointment and I asked to be recompensed to the sum of $50.
Absolutely, you should. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Instead, they got a bunch of plate spinners to go.
I won the halftime show at a basketball game in my youth in the south of New Zealand, where I had to make. It was like you're a child, and you have to run around and put on like the oversized shorts and the all the big clothes because I'm a small person, and then get the ball in the hoop. And I did it, and they signed it. And just to prove how small New Zealand is, I didn't realize, but I go down onto the court and recognize one of the professional basketball players who's playing for the team is my teacher at school.
Get out of here, Ben. Get out of here, Ben. What are you doing?
And he signed, I got a signed ball from
your school teacher. I'm now suspect. I'm suspect. I feel like you were the plant. You were the inside man. I'm gonna write to the New Zealand consulate and be like, "Hey, investigate this. You know, we've got a conflict of interest here. This is a student and a teacher going together."
But suddenly,
this
so
is a major
not cool
scandal.
when I look at the ball and my teacher signed a ball that I won. Big whoop!
That's incredible. So they've gone with. There's a game called NBA 2K, and so they went with like a online competition where the players could play as themselves,
like on Xbox
games. Twitch. So I guess on Xbox, but they like streamed it on Twitch, and these guys are playing on Twitch. And the even better one is later. Now, granted, this one was for charity, but it is very funny when you watch the footage. They did a horse competition. You know the game Horse. Yeah. So one person makes a shot, and then you have to match that shot from the exact same point on the court to get it in. And then you every time you miss, you get a letter of the word horse, so you get 5 chances. It's the premise of the game basketball is the game Horse, because these two guys could shoot, but they couldn't play basketball.
Right.
And so they have these guys.
being a professional basketball player is not an advantage when we're translating that to a video game.
At all.
No, not at all.
In fact,
No.
potentially it's a disadvantage by being able to work other parts of your body other than your thumbs.
By being athletic.
Yeah.
My only interest in sport comes from 1980s films like Teen Wolf.
That's fair.
Like watching basketball games and those things are always, you know, the highlights, the choreographs, the moments that you go, well, that was exciting. But, you know. I went to my very first football game about 2 years ago at a stadium, and it was incredible because I was just like, "Oh my god, it's real! It is real!"
Well, I worked at the MCG for 6 years, so I was immersed amongst it. Yeah, I was a pie boy. I walked amongst the crowd, and was very unenthralled with the job, so I didn't even call out, which is the major source of receiving money. Was calling out to people.
A pie boy with ennui.
Yeah.
Does it say pie boy on your contract?
Yeah.
So this is how casual the job was. There was no contract, and basically, if you showed up, you worked. If you didn't, they never questioned it.
Wow.
They would just designate you to an area. They'd be like, "All right, you're in this stand. Go find the outlet there," and they'll hook you up with a little tray. That's how relaxed it was. Nobody cared. Like if none of us showed up, they'd just be like, "All right, they'll buy the pies from the outlet. It's fine."
No pie boys today.
Did you have to do something like when they're in the middle of the chairs? The chairs. The seats. Oh, where's your chair at the stadium? Mine's over there.
When you're amongst the audience.
I never threw an item. There was always like a great level of like a trust exercise where you'd be like, "Don't eat this. Pass it along." Yeah, and everybody did. It didn't matter how drunk they got. They would be like, "We understand that this is what the arrangement is," but you would always hear the same like 4 jokes. So you walk out with a box of ice cream that has dry ice in it. They'd be like, "Hey mate, your ice cream's on fire." And you're like, "Yep, cool, thanks."
That's funny. That's good stuff.
The more enthusiastic ones who actually called out, the call out was hot pies, cold drinks. So the call and response was always hot pies, more like cold pies, especially if Collingwood was playing and they were losing. Yeah.
Good one.
And that's a reference that I understand as well.
they're the magpies.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was sort of the main interactions, and have to do quick maths because it was all cash in hand. All right.
What would be the worst thing to sell? Sorry, man.
The worst item to sell.
I was going to say I would like to sign a petition just for more pie boys in everyday scenarios.
Just people coming down to you at work, being like,
up and down the aisles of Parliament. You know.
Well, some of them could do with a pie thrown at them, so I'd be okay with that.
Exactly.
Let's get it in there. All right, let's get close. We're getting close to being done. So there's a few different, like all the countries have obviously faced coronavirus in a couple of different ways, and there's been a few approaches as to how to best handle the idea of social distancing. A couple of countries have gone to some weird degrees. Malaysia in particular has put out an ad that has had a lot of backlash. Does anyone want to take a guess at what the ad was promoting, what idea the ad was promoting when in quarantine?
Oh God!
The vaccine was True Love's Kiss.
Fantastic.
All I could think of is something like tasers or something. Like if you're out in the street, you're allowed to carry a taser.
Yeah.
Out of my way! Out of my way!
If you touch her, you have to marry her. Something like that. It's like now you have to shack up together.
Right.
You're surprisingly, as far off as you are, you're surprisingly the closest. It is.
Okay.
It is. They put out a message to wives, specifically to wives, to not nag husbands, to not be sarcastic if you need help with the household chores, and to use humor or imitate the infantile voice of this character called Doraemon, who's like a little robot cat from Japan. That was their major advice. Was like, hey, this might be a little while, and it's clearly your fault. So be better.
And this has resulted in how many deaths? Yeah.
Man, we won't even know until afterwards.
Oh my god.
I mean, so aside from the obvious sexism, that sort of like, hey, get amongst it. Like, does anyone want to take a stab at which ministry put out this advice?
It'd be like the Ministry for Family Violence or something like that, but it's probably the opposite.
For road transport and roads.
Road transport. They're like, you can't drive anymore, so this is the solution.
It's Singapore, though, isn't it? Is it Singapore? Is that what you said?
Malaysia.
Malaysia, yeah. Right. Do you have? I don't know which department, but do you know what the voice of Doremu sounds like?
It's like a high pitched. I did look him up. The closest I can get to it, he's like, he's a weird, because he's a male character. So that in and of itself is also like, hey, just do this high pitched man cat voice where it's like, he's sort of like that. He's up in that pitch. How is that going to help? I don't know how that's going to help.
That is terrible.
Like if you're coming out. Yeah, if you're coming out and being like, hey, can you pick up your underpants, please? That's really not going to help. I would be more annoyed, if anything.
Yeah.
I'd just be like, what are you doing? Like, just ask. Yeah. Just ask. Like, it's fine.
But the purpose of this character is to be made fun of, so we all feel better. Is that the reason?
No.
I think
he's
it's
like the hero of his cartoon.
I think this is classic. You know what, ladies? If he hits you, it's your fault. So here's ways to
100%.
Not do
that's
that.
what this is. Yeah.
You be more ladylike. Speak even more like a helpless female.
Yeah.
It's pretty gross. I mean, Sheephat would be all over this shit.
Sheephat would be furious. She wouldn't stand for that though. She would eat you the moment you
she
got
would
out
turn
of
you
line.
into a ghost.
She'd be gobbling up all those pills. She knows what she's
That's
doing.
right.
Yeah.
Oh man! So how long did this stay up?
Less than a day before they had to officially apologize. It was put out by the Ministry for Women.
No.
Who? Yeah, and it's run by a woman at the moment. I looked her up, and essentially, clearly a lot of internalized misogyny in the country, and just a lot of just awfulness, and just her. I guess maybe it's the only thing she could get approved is to blame the women, because the hashtag that they put on the ads was hashtag women prevent COVID-19. Like as if they have to be doctors now on top of taking care of all the housework and can you just solve this for us, women? It's awful.
Wow. I think it's because they see Jessica. They see Jacinda, and they're like, "Wait a minute, women are solving COVID." So,
it was
Jessica,
Jacinda
I'm so sorry,
Angela.
How dare you?
What?
That's my auntie.
Did she play on the basketball team as well?
Yes, she did. We all did. We all had a laugh.
She was the assistant
Peter
coach.
Jackson, the flight of the Conchords.
I mean, you could take that. The nagging thing, the nagging wife, is such an old cliche. You could add almost any other stereotype to that list, and it would sound like an old 1950s, Catskills joke.
Honeymooners, yeah.
That's incredible.
I'm just amazed that people are still sort of thinking that way and just being like, oh yeah, this is clearly the solution. We'll go back to the 50s. That's solved all our problems. We've never
never
had any issues because of the 50s.
The nifty 50s.
I blame Mad
When
Men,
Mummy was always drunk, wasn't she?
People really got behind that Betty Draper character, and they were like, "That's That's the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, that's the ideal.
Yeah.
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 Well, I know that where is he? I've got my man right here.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, it doesn't have a picture of me on his desk. It has a picture of
Oh, John, he's so dreamy.
A man for all seasons. Just every day to wake up and be like, this is my man. This is the guy to aspire
The guy to emulate. People did that though. They would go up to John Hamm and say, "Oh man, I love Don Draper so much," and he'd be like, "You're a fucking idiot."
Yeah,
Yeah, he must be.
No, you've misunderstood the point of the show.
Yeah.
Entirely.
It's like people who sort of idolize, like, to take it to a slightly different degree, because this is a more toxic fan base than I've heard of for Mad Men, but people who idolize the Rick character from Rick and Morty. And you're like, no, he's not supposed to be idolized. The point of his character is that he's awful and that he's a narcissist. He's not to be enjoyed.
It's right there in the opening credits. I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah, but I guess the lovable skip. I mean, in a sense, the Draper is a little more subtle with it than the extreme of a Rick character, but it's still pretty obviously what, like, the message of the show is. This was bad. Like, look how horrible he treats his wife and his family and his friends, and look at where it gets him.
Yeah, cocaine. That's where it got him.
Yeah,
that's right. You can smoke inside, and all I want to do is smoke in an office.
Oh my god! So smoking inside was still a thing when I started clubbing, when I started going out. So I was on the cusp of it coming out, and I'm still shocked. I remember going out, being like 18, 19, going out and kind of leaving the club at whatever in the morning, and just running my fingers through my hair and being like, why is this ideal? You could just shape it and it would just stay like that, just because there was so much stale smoke in the air, and because it's all mixed with sweat and it's disgusting. Even the next morning,
clubs saved on fog machines back then.
Yeah,
that was the idea.
Yeah,
and they don't have to put giant holes in their roof. I've seen ones that they just don't have a roof in some sections. You're like, well, this is the smoking area. We took the roof out.
The first time I went to London was in 1996, and you could smoke on the flight. There was a smoking section on the flight.
That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. It was Garuda Airlines.
Oh my god, what? I don't think I even know Garuda Airlines.
That sounds like Flintstones Airlines. Were your legs running on the ground for takeoff?
It was just a giant pterodactyl with the thing strapped to its back.
Yeah. It used to be Indonesia's airline, and it used to fly to Australia, to Denpasar, and then to London. But I think it had a very poor record, and it only flies internally Indonesia now, I think, or parts of Southeast Asia. But it doesn't fly to Australia anymore, and it doesn't fly to London.
They've all been converted into buses now.
Yeah, it took. I remember it taking something ridiculous like 2 days, because it stopped over. I think it stopped over in the Middle East somewhere as well, but we were stuck at Denpasar Airport for something like 12 hours. It was meant to be 4, then it turned into 8, then it turned into 12. And I've never been to Bali because of that. I just can't. I can't be in Denpasar Airport ever again. So that was it.
And did you sit in non-smoking or smoking?
By the end of the flight, it was all smoking. Yeah,
exactly. I did sit in non-smoking, but that curtain does shizzle. That's like, it only goes. It's only waist high. Like, it drops down to about the middle of a waist. So
that's hilarious. It's just
like
the
I'm
oxygen
talking
mask.
to someone in the past. All you know is smoking on airplanes and playing Pac-Man with your friends.
Yeah. I am the original
playing
old
sheep hat,
lady.
thank you.
I
and
used
I got a
to
couple more
walk to
questions and we'll
school
get out of
too, for 2 kilometers.
I remember when I used to fly Garuda Airlines.
Back in my day, we had airlines.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like the noise of an old car.
All right, a couple more, and then we'll get out of here. So there was a couple of foreign nationals in India who were caught flouting the lockdown laws. The police punished them. Does anyone want to take a stab at what their punishment was? It's something really sort of nonsensical. It's a light punishment.
They had to post a terrible selfie every day for 10 days, something like that.
I wish that was their punishment. I'd join that Instagram account.
Yeah.
They had to watch the James Bond films, but only the Pierce Brosnan ones.
That's a real
That's a
subjective
reward.
punishment.
Get out. Go away. Terrible.
I'm going to say they had to not watch Tiger King, but read the script someone's written out.
Novelization.
Yeah.
The official novelization of Tiger King.
It's no dialogue, just description of the shots.
A man walks out, one crutch, tight jeans.
Establishing shot, 18 tigers. Credits.
Did they
had-
whip them at a post?
No, it was nothing like capital punishment. It was quite light in terms of the response. They made them write, "I am sorry," 500 times each.
Wow.
That's great.
That was the. That
And
was
where
the,
did they get published?
There's a library, Ben, and you'll know it's a library because it's got a fist with a pen.
It's got a
coming
pen.
out of it.
It's on
all
Garuda
in there.
Airlines. You'll see it. Yeah. You fly over it if you take Garuda.
Right.
The
Yeah,
only thing about
so
that
they
library,
made
though,
them-
is built with virtual rat's piss. It's amazing. I just thought I'd bring it back.
You may have heard this one. We all know Anthony Fauci. We're all
Hey,
familiar with
Fauci.
Anthony Fauci.
Hey, it's Fauci, man.
So he did an interview with, I think it was the Wall Street Journal quite recently, saying that in the post-corona world, he suggested that we never do what again?
Press
Shake
conferences.
hands, isn't it? Something like shake hands or
Listen to Trump.
It is shaking hands. He said that we're going to have to move on, and it's best we never shake hands again, because he was like, not only will that help not spread major diseases like this, but it's like major cases of influenza will drop, and I think he just doesn't like shaking hands, to be honest. He goes in for
That's a personal
goes
beef.
in for the fist bump. Yeah, this is a lifelong awkward. Like he's been rejected by the psych one too many times. Like someone's gone in and
Gotcha,
He's-
Fauci.
he's had a strong woman suggest that he's one of those limp fishes.
I've
he's
seen
sick
people
of, like-
doing. I saw a clip of Mike Pence yesterday doing the elbow bump, and it just looks strange. It's like seeing a politician in their casual clothing. You know, it's so informal that if we get rid of the handshake, we still need some sort of formalized greeting.
Well,
yeah.
What would it be,
this is
though?
what I
What
was
would you do?
Yeah.
This is what
I
I was
don't
going
know,
to ask.
'cause that-
What are your suggestions for the post-corona official greeting? Because I think it's time to plant your flag now and then stubbornly refuse to move, regardless of what gets picked. Because the fist bump surely has to go out because it's still
Yeah.
two hands.
It's
going
aggressive.
together.
It's an aggressive move.
Something like something like that.
I'm like,
Even more
fucking
subtle. We
what?
do it anyway. When you see someone, regardless of the eyebrow handshake, it's got to be the eyebrows. It's got to be something like
Little.
Yeah.
I think we reclaim the toxic masculinity, run and chest bump.
I just like that. I just like the shimmy.
The shimmy.
I think it was quite
Just a
good.
shimmy.
Yeah, women are just.
We just shimmy at each other.
And you can like the more exuberant your personality is, you might go in for a double shimmy, like the double kiss cheek.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Shimmy, and then nobody's gonna know how many shimmies you're going for.
Yeah, it's awkward.
If you want to be cool, you just do a half shimmy.
Yeah. It's gotta be like
So
that.
you see someone
Yeah.
walking towards you in the street now, and you don't know whether they know you or they're just trying to get past you.
Yeah.
Like,
They're just trying to get through.
I was shimmying at the guy behind you.
I'm so sorry.
Behind
I'm
you,
so
yeah.
sorry.
Sales of
Guy in the
ruffled
middle.
shirts will go through the roof.
I wanna put our thing here at the news quiz. I feel like we can all go for the wiggle there, the double wiggle.
Yeah, that's a good
Bit of this
idea.
one. Because like not only are you getting like you can point it, you can specifically point at people, but you're establishing because I don't know if you know the origin of the double wiggle. It was established so that when they're in photos, you can always see their hands, so they won't get in trouble. Right? So you are thoroughly establishing that you are anti-pedophile, which is great.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think it's a stance you need to take, but given a lot of our guys are pro-pel, and you're like, you know what? No, this is the camp I'm on.
Yeah.
And
they'd be completely naked, just so you know they're not hiding anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I was in Sydney with a mate. Sydney's where I'm from originally, so I was in a mate, and that's where I think most of the Wiggles live. I think that's where they're from. And Anthony Wiggle, who's the blue Wiggle, he was coming down the street on one of those two-pronged skateboards that does that. So literally, Anthony Wiggle was wiggling down the street, and I laughed for at least half an hour. Because in my head I saw Anthony Wiggle, wiggling, and it kept me happy for a really long time.
Do you think if someone tried to give him one of these while he was doing that, it's sort of like patting your head and rubbing your stomach, and that he would have thrown off his own and just collapsed into the street?
His hip would just explode.
But then he would have died doing what he loved.
Yeah.
So
Wiggling, the ultimate wiggle. All right. This is the last one. This is just about hoarding. There was a shop in Adelaide. You may have seen him. A guy tried to return a bunch of stuff to an Adelaide supermarket, and I want you guys to guess to the nearest 1,000 how many dollars of stuff he tried to return. Oh, you're going for 10?
it's 10,000, I think.
I just want to take a stab. That's not
Just at a supermarket, or what was it? What was
it was like his local supermarket. Him and a bunch of guys had gotten together and formed like a posse. And went and bought up all this toilet paper and hand sanitizer. And,
that's like the worst. It's the worst posse ever, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like
you
have the history of great gangs, like the Billy the Kid,
the Kelly gang,
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and the Hole in the Wall gang, and then you've got the Toilet Paper Adelaide gang.
Yeah, but they were wiggling. So
yeah, exactly. So we're on board. It's fine.
So no.
I think it was around 10,000 too, but I'll just go one higher. Let's go 11,000. Let's go 11,000.
For the sake of competition, I like it.
Yeah.
And I'll go $100,000.
Oh man, I would love to see what $100,000 of toilet paper looks like and where you store it. It was 10,000. So bang on. Amanda, very well done.
My favourite story of the week was just the manner in which they laughed at him and sent him away.
All yours now, buddy. Because they closed his eBay account and everything. He's no way he can get rid of it.
Yeah, he said to the manager, the reason he was trying to return it was, this is a quote from him, "My eBay site has been shut down, so we couldn't profiteer off that."
Right. So he bought them hoping to make money. I missed that part.
Yeah, he threw in that he was trying to profiteer. Like, dude, you don't acknowledge the crime.
Yeah.
I mean, honesty is not always the best policy in this.
I think it's his first time. He'll learn.
Yeah.
He'll get better. Go for some tax write-offs. And finally...
If only he had something to collect his tears. with.
If only, all right?
If only.
He could clean his hands afterwards of his guilt. Just being... So I feel like hoarding has sort of reached its natural endpoint because there's a bunch of guys in America, a bunch of companies have popped up where men are trying to hoard away something very specific. Does anyone want to take a stab at what they're trying to hoard away?
I think they're trying to stab at a lot of things, aren't they? They're trying to... Is it Viagra?
Oh, no, not Viagra. That's a good guess, though.
Oh, okay.
You're close, though.
I was going to say condoms or something like that.
Condoms is an excellent guess. I'd say that's probably closer than Viagra.
Is it power?
So
Are they just trying to hoard
around the
power?
penis.
It's around the penis.
We're in the right
You could say it's penis adjacent. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it ball bags?
That's adjacent.
They're just collecting them, just going down the street. These ones are mine. These ones
Tiny
are mine.
masks for testicles.
They're like, it's the only thing that will keep me safe.
A little hammock. I think that's sellable.
It's their sperm. Like, there's a bunch of guys worried about the effects that it will have on their fertility, and so all of these at-home sperm kit companies have sort of popped up, and you can get them to deliver you the cup and take
I'm
care
going to
of
hazard a guess that the ladies aren't exactly lining up at the doors of these men.
See, that's probably a better product than urea to stick things together on the moon, like on a Mars base.
Yeah.
Very temporary solution, though. I feel like you've got a couple of days best before your factory falls down.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be working at Amazon when they're doing that collection, though.
Yeah, at least you can fit the other one in your you've already allotted time for it. Whereas this you probably have to give up your break for it.
So I've got so many questions about storage. Like, are people just freezing it in their own fridge, or is it getting sent to a proper clinic to be stored?
My understanding is that it gets sent back, but surely in the process of sending it back, it just gets destroyed. Yeah. So these guys are wasting, unless there's some sort of very well put together canister where you can like twist it at the bottom and it freezes. And
It'll be like
3 days.
There was only one of those. That was in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. That had a bunch of seeds in it as well. So
icy pole containers from the stadium that you worked at, mate. And just a lot of dry ice in there.
And they're like, mate, your sperm's on fire.
Your sperm's on fire.
I love any elaborate excuse to have a wank. The idea that the people are being like, no. It's for the good of the future.
Science.
It's science.
Yeah. Oh, Corona. I'm doing it for Corona.
It's just you all know about the seed bank in Norway? Yeah. So this is just like the most disgusting version of the seed bank, right? This is just full of the worst.
Ladies
people.
and gentlemen, our sperm kits have gone through the roof. Their chart must be like,
just erect.
Just erect.
Well, thank you so much for your time, guys. I'm gonna say probably Amanda won this one. I think she landed the most actual answers, and at the very least was spot on with her 10,000. So. Apologies, Liam. You have to sleep on the couch, so I'm sorry about that.
And this isn't even our bedroom. This is just a spare room. So there's just all these beds in the house.
You get to look forward to a new Yamaha jet ski coming out.
Does anyone have anything that they want to plug?
And a basketball signed by a teacher.
Mr. Henry.
Yeah, I'll plug something, Matt, if you got time.
Yeah.
So
go for it.
I did a film earlier, late last year, and it's coming out in Australia this month, I think. It's called Escape from Pretoria.
If anything comes out.
Yeah, if it comes out, yeah. But I think it's going to DVD, and it might be going on streaming as well. Great
nice.
film. It's an escape film set in South Africa, filmed in Adelaide.
Who else is in it, Liam? Who else stars in it?
Oh, we've got a red Power Ranger, we've got a Hobbit, and we've also got a wizard, a guy called Daniel Radcliffe.
Ooh,
He's
that's
the lead in
super
it.
exciting.
Yeah, it's good fun. Good fun
Yeah.
to shoot. It's a good film too.
Yeah, great. Sounds quite exciting. I'm looking forward to that. That'll give us something to watch in quarantine. Like I expect you'll have like Trolls 2 numbers where people are just like, please give us something to watch. So you know, if we get that out there, get people on top. Does anyone else have anything they want to, like, even if it's just a night or just something that they're sort of going on? No.
Ben, you've got a program, Ben.
Well, yes, I do have a program. I have an Instagram live show called Glass Half Empty. Where we make the good things seem bad so the bad things seem good. Just to make you feel better, we are shooting down anything positive in your life so it mediates with everything that is bad in your life. So you can look that up on Instagram. I'd also like to plug the concept of bidets. An ad came up on my Facebook recently, and it really hooked me. It literally just said, imagine if the idea of showers was getting into a cubicle and rubbing yourself with a dry cloth. They were like, and that's not going to make you clean, but that's what we're doing in a toilet. There's no water involved. There's no way that's working. I'm anti-toilet paper amongst all of this pro-toilet paper, and I wish there were bidets everywhere because they're delightful and they're quick and they're better for the environment. Get a bidet, everyone.
Bidet to you too, sir. That's excellent. And I guess if people have time, because they most likely will have found this through FringeView, I put up my my storytelling show called I Got Bit by a Monkey Once on FringeView as well. So if people want to check out, there's 4 true stories, one with a monkey bite, one with a long bus trip across America, one with a mugging, and one with an arrest. So it'd be great if people could check that out.
That's good.
Thank you so much for your time, guys.
Thanks,
Matt.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
I'm a millennial. I'm pretty sure most of the audience. Oh, no, not all of you, not you guys. It's all right. Even for me, it's a stretch. They say 84 is part of the millennial group, but I don't know. I feel like I'm pushing it, but I'm going to take it because I'm never going to own a house. Never. So I'm going to wear that stamp proudly, and that's going to be my reason, right? Because I feel we've been pushed out of the housing market quite savagely. I don't think we're ever going to get back in. So I feel as a group, we need to band together. We need to work together and invest in the funeral market and just push the prices right up. They're going to get there before us. And they can make up for 20 years of share housing, right? So what I'm saying is I'm quitting comedy and starting a funeral business. If anyone wants to get in on the ground level, this is the day to do it. Thanks, guys. So this is how I've chosen to promote that, rather than do advertising on television. Much cheaper. Television, dying medium. Don't improvise. I feel like that's the lesson there. But I saw a dude on the tram had the Monopoly board tattooed on his arm. I feel like that was his ode to the only place where he knew he would own some property. I was like, I live on Mayfair. That's where I shoot up. Call it home. Look, some jokes are going to be dark. It's a theme you're going to have to deal with tonight. Still funny. It's okay to laugh. It's all right.